Hi everyone, I am Santosh Kumar DK, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Canara Engineering College. In this video, we are going to discuss Big Data Analytics 17 CS 82, a course update from the 8th semester. The study material regarding this course is available on my site, which is highlighted over here.
In the previous video, we have discussed the HDFS basics and the command. In this video, we'll discuss about MapReduce framework and a programming demo. As we have already discussed about HDFS, we'll see in detail about MapReduce and the steps in the MapReduce. First, I'll discuss about MapReduce framework. The MapReduce computation module provides a very powerful tool for many applications and is more common than that user realize. It is the one which gives us the distributed parallel programming architecture. There are two stages in general in it, that is mapping stage and reduce stage. Usually whenever we call MapReduce, people think that only there are mainly two stages. Yes, it is true, but it is having internally 5 stages. The MapReduce model is inspired by the map and reduce functions commonly used in the many functional programming languages. The functional nature of the MapReduce has some important properties. First one, the data flow is in one direction, that is map to reduce. It means it's a unidirection. It is possible to use the output of a reduce step as an input to the another MapReduce process because it is going in one direction, unidirection. So if we are going to simplify it in more way, what we have to do is we have to parallelly connect the one MapReduce process to the another MapReduce process. The second one, as with the functional programming, the input data are not changed. By applying the mapping and reduction functions to the input data, new data are produced over here. In effect, the original state of the Hadoop data lake is always preserved. So this is what I said when we were discussing about even HDFS also. Here we are not authorized to modify the original data because that is the original data which should be kept as it is. Only thing is we are allowed to modify and work on that data as a copy, and we can extract whatever we want, we can bring up the output, but we are not authorized to modify the original data. That if we are allowed to modify the original data, then we are going to lose the originality of that data. What exactly that data want to convey, that we are going to lose it. The distributed parallel implementation of MapReduce enables the large amount of data to be analyzed quickly. That's why this Hadoop architecture is very famous because it is one of the framework and it is the one open source framework which allows us to work on a distributed parallel way. Because of MapReduce, it's going to be possible. The mapper process is fully scalable and can be applied to any subset of the input data. Results from the multiple parallel mapping functions are then combined in the reduce phase, which we will see in the next diagram. Hadoop accomplishes parallelism by using the distributed file system, what we have already discussed. This parallelism is only possible because of the support provided by the HDFS. MapReduce will try to move the mapping task to the server that contains the data slice, which results from the data slice are combined in the reduce step. This I have highlighted when I am discussing about HDFS. HDFS goes with the concept of moving computation is cheaper than moving the data. So that is what exactly the motto of the HDFS, and MapReduce is going to support for the same. Now we'll see each step. The MapReduce actually has a 5 basic steps. The first step will be input split. The given input will be splitted into n number of blocks. The block size we have already discussed in the previous video, where the block size, minimum block size will be 64 MB, next will be 128, next will be 256, like this. These are all the standard sizes. So let's take it as a 64 MB. The input split, the given file is splitted into n number of blocks based on this size. For example, if I'm having a 500 MB file, so if I'm going to say the block size is 64, then I'll be getting around 8 blocks in it. And these are written on the different machines. We have discussed this, like how these blocks will be stored and how the replication factor will take place. The data are also replicated on multiple machines. This is going to be improved when there is a fault. The input splits used by the MapReduce are logical boundaries based on the input data. Second one is the map stage. The map stage is the one very important. The mapping process is where the parallel nature of the Hadoop comes into play. This is what is going to map to the different data nodes. For large amount of data, many mapper can be operated at the same time. The user provides the specific mapping process. User is in their programming, they can also specify the respective mapping process also. MapReduce will try to execute the mapper on the machine where the block resides. MapReduce will also allow us to do that. Because of the files are replicated, we have seen already in the HDFS, the least busy node with the data will be chosen. This is what I was telling initially when we are talking about the way where the data blocks will be stored and the replicated data will be stored. That is decided by the programming part, algorithm part I told, right? So this is where the mapping stage is going to decide where to keep the data. If all the nodes which are holding the data are too busy in handling it, the MapReduce will try to pick one node that is very closest to the node where the computation is taking place, and which we call it as a rack awareness, which we have already discussed, best, better, and good. So based on that, the data will be placed. Otherwise, it's going to choose any random node on the. If they are not going to meet any of these first two criteria, that is one which is free, the second one even though it is busy, which is very close to the computation device. If that is not the case, then the final will be it's going to apply a random algorithm. The next stage will be combined stage. This combined stage is actually a optional stage. It is possible to provide an optimization of the pre-ordered, or it is possible to provide optimization of the pre-reduction as a part of the map stage, where it's going to deal with the key value pairs. These key value pairs are combined prior to the next stage, because whatever the data we are going to get, we are going to treat them as a key value pair, which we will see in the example what we are going to discuss. The next stage will be the shuffle stage. The shuffle stage is going to play before the parallel reduction stage. All the similar keys must be combined and counted by the same reducer process. Therefore, the result of the map stage must be controlled by a key value pairs and shuffled to the other same reducer process. If only a single reducer process is used, the shuffle stage is not needed. Even shuffle stage is also a optional stage. That's why when we take a word MapReduce, we highly target on the map and reduce. Split can be done by the HDFS itself. Combine and shuffles are optional, and reduce is going to be, map and reduce are mandatory. But shuffle is only optional when there is only one reducer process. Next, reduce step. The final step is the reduce step. In this, the data reduction is performed as per the programmer wish. However, the programmer is designed the code based on that this reducer stage is going to work. Whenever we are coding, we will code for only for map and reduce and a driver code. We will not code for the split, we will not code for the combine, we will not code for the shuffle, most of the cases. Split is handled by the admin. Admin is going to decide what is the block, Hadoop admin is going to decide what is the block size and all. And when it comes to programming, we have to write 3 codes. One is a driver code, and one more is a map code, and one more is a reduce code. Let's see the example. See here, in this example, we have taken a simple input file which has 3 lines where some around 9 words are there. So I will read out the word: see, spot, run, spot, run, see the cat. So this is what is some random words they have placed on the input file. Now what it is going to do? It's going to split. Actually, consider this is a huge file, and I'm going to divide into 3 splits of 64 MB blocks. So actually, what happens is if the file is very small, then you are not required this MapReduce, because what happens, you will not feel the real work of the Hadoop distributed framework. You should give a very huge data to that. But we are discussing a example thing, so we can discuss with a small content. So now the split is for 3. As I told initially, the minimum configuration if you are going for a fully distributed model is, that is 3 data nodes and 1 name node. So considering 3 data nodes are there, I am going to split it to 3 blocks, where each line I am bringing it to the 3 blocks. Next, what I will do is I'll be mapping it to the each data node. Then once after each data nodes are been mapped, now we are going to shuffle, where as we have told, when we are mapping itself, we can notice we have got a key value pair. See, the key is the name, the word, for example, see, spot, and run. The value is the numerics what we have used over there, 1, 1, 1, 1 in the initial map stage. And when we shuffle, we will bring them in a similar way, as we can call it as a sorting. So you can notice it is not in a ascending or descending sorting. It is just like similar words have been brought together in the shuffle stage, where C belongs to one block, one stage, they are grouped together, and spot is grouped together, and run is grouped together, and the cat are grouped together. Now in the reduce stage, what it is going to do? It's having a similar keys. So what it will do? The key will be same, the count value will be increased. That's why C is increased to 2, because there are 2 C's in the given input file. Similarly for spot also, and run is having a 3 occurrences. It's going to be increased by 3. Next, these having single occurrence, and also cat. Now the final output will be, we had given an input file with a 9 words, and the final output will be having 5 words with some occurrences. Each will be having 2, 2, 3, and 1, 1. This is how MapReduce is going to take any input, and this whether to count or do any task is clearly decided by the programmer. Only thing is, this is going to be done in a distributed parallel way, that is done by the MapReduce and the Hadoop. Let's see the program, how it's going to work. See, the program for the same what I have discussed, as I told, it should have a 3 class files. So here in the textbook, what they have done is they have written everything in a one single class, and they have divided them into a functions. They are having internal classes inside it. When I'm explaining a program, what I have done is rather than keeping all the 3 classes, that is the mapper, reducer, and driver, in single class called word count, I separated them and I kept it in a different files. That's it. That is, like these are all the Java standards. I will not in detail discuss what is what, which keyword is responsible for doing what. Just I'll go on and I'll explain the few technicality over here. So we are creating a class called word count, and I'm going with a tokenizer mapper. This is the mapping stage. In the mapper, what I'm doing exactly over here, you can notice that I'm creating a generics. It is extended from the mapper, which is already there in the Hadoop library. So what I'm going to do here, I think you guys are aware that when you are going to use the greater than and smaller than brackets, it is nothing but it's a generic. And then inside that I'm creating one object and I'm going to read whatever the data it's going to be fetched from the input file. And I'm going to map it with a given parameters, that is our key value and the context. And if there is any errors, we'll be handling them with the exceptions. And here we are going to iterate through each tokens, and we are going to set them, and we are going to set with the key and values. We are having a reducer. In the reducer, as like the mapper, it's also one more internal class of the class word count, and here we are extending this class from the reducer. Again, we are using the generics standard over here. And next we are going to write a reduce function, which is going to take those generic parameters, and if there is any issues, it's going to handle it with the exception. So this is what is our simple logic, where I'm going to declare a variable called sum, and what I'm going to do for each values, whatever I have got, I'll be counting for each value for the respective key. Whatever I got, I'll be counting, I'll be increasing the sum of that particular keyword. And final sum will be returned back to the file. And this is the driver program, what we call, like you might have heard while you are discussing about your Java programming, that the main is also the another name for the main class, the class which has a main is called as a driver. So because it's going to be the starting part of the program, and that is going to start the execution process. So driver means there is nothing very different thing we are going to do. Just it's a class which has a main from where the execution begins. Here we are going to set the configuration, job configuration, everything. These are all the standard things which we are going to take it, and we are going to do it. And you need not to worry. In exams, they don't ask you to write a program to do different operations. This is the one word count standard program they have. They are going to ask only on that, because we don't have any practicals on it. We don't have any more discussion about the programming over here. Just they have given some example program. One of this word count is the one of the program, and some benchmark programs they have given, which is already there in the Hadoop common library, how to run it. Like for example, Pi program and all that you can learn it from the notes, study material, whatever I have shared on my site, or else that you can also practice from if you have configured the Hadoop by following the steps what I have shared on my website. Let's see how this program is going to work. Initially, let me begin with starting the Hadoop. So you know this I have discussed even in the previous video, how to start the Hadoop and what is the startall.sh, which is a shell script which is going to have multiple commands to start each daemons of the Hadoop. That is name node, data node, resource manager, secondary name node and all. Let's see whether it is created whether the Hadoop is started properly. I have told you in the previous discussion itself, minimum 5 process should be started. Now I'm just going to show you what is there in my directory, where you can see over here WCIN. It means it's a word count input file. where I am going to keep my input file. You know how to put the input file from the previous video. I have told you how to put the file from outside world to HDFS using the put command. And now I'll just show you what I have written inside it. Inside that WCN, I have a folder called sample data.txt. I made a mistake. Let me correct it. Yeah, now I think I'll get the data what it is having. Yeah, this is what I have over there. I am this and that this some random words I have written just like a previous one. So my job is to count the occurrence of each word in this program right now. You can give any text file. You will get a plenty of text file which is huge in content in the net. You need not to worry about that by giving this whether really are we going to make use of the MapReduce and distributed architecture. No, but I'm giving a demo over here. It takes time. That's why I have done it. I'll just show you the code what I have discussed just now. I'll just navigate it. I'm using Eclipse. Even you can directly write using the gedit, and you can write the code, and you can compile the Java files, and you keep everything in a single folder and create a jar file based on those class files. You know, like you will get all the steps how to convert a jar file using command-based operations that you can get it from the net. Even using Eclipse you can do, because I'm using Eclipse because most of the companies in the production, they go with the Eclipse IDEs. So that's why even I go with it. And it's easy to work with IDEs rather than with the command based. And this is what I was talking here. I'm having a three files rather than keeping all the class files, that is driver, mapper and reducer in a single file. What I'm doing over here is I'm keeping them in a separate files. One is a word count driver, one more is a word count mapper, one more is a word count reducer. So the same code what I have written over there, I'm going to write over here. You can notice here something I have written job reducer task is 2, which I have disabled because I am having only one reducer over here. So you can see this is what I was talking about, word count driver, which is going to have the main function. I am going to run that, and mapper and reducer will be having the mapper and reducer classes. Driver will be having the main class, and this is what is the mapper class which we have seen, right? We will be having a word count mapper, and which is extended by the mapper class, which is going to use a generics, and we are going to write a map function where it is going to keep track of the any exceptions also, and we are going to read line by line, and we treat them as a string. And you know how what is string tokenizer, how string tokenizers will be used from the Java. I'll not discuss all those terms from the Java. And again, I'm telling you, you need not to worry about much about the programming until unless you are interested in big data analytics using Hadoop. You take up any courses and you learn it. Here we will be giving you just an introduction. You can see over here, rather than writing over there in the previous code, I have written the same code I have written in a different logic. I have declared a sum, and I'm going to add the sum. Rather than writing multiple lines, I have used simple lines, and I'm going to count the value of the each key. Each key will be counted over here. Next, we'll see how to create a jar file in the now we will see how to create a jar file. Right click on the project and export jar file. Here you have to give a jar file name. So this is easy compared to command based. In command based also it's having a simple one line command which will create a jar file. Whichever you feel easy, you go for it. So I have created wc temp is a jar file and I'm going to save it. Let's see in my file browser where it is. It should be on my home folder. Yeah, on my workspace I have, because I was using Eclipse workspace. It is having wc temp. Now I'm going to use that, and I should first go to my terminal. Let me close this Eclipse. Let me open a terminal. Yeah, already my Hadoop is started initially. Now I'm going to put that jar file first to my HDFS, because the program should be there on my HDFS. Right now I have shown you WC in, where it's having input file, and I have explained in the previous video that how to find whether it's a file or not when you give a ls, and how to see the content also. Let me get into workspace. I'll get this wc temp.jar to my HDFS file system, because I am not authorized to run from my local system. See, I'm going to use wc temp.jar. Yeah, I should give them class name which is having a main class, that is word count driver. Directly I'm running now. Yes, word count driver. That should be the class name of the class which has a main class. So, and I'm going to give where are the input files for that. Directly I cannot run. I'm repeating it. I should start running with the Hadoop command or HDFS DFS command. And the input, the file is there in the format of jar. You know, that is also one of the advantage of feature of our Java, that is a platform independent. So these jar files makes them platform independent. Next, where it has to store the output, that is word count, that is wc out demo. That is a folder where it has to store the output of it. I have given the command to run now. Started running the job. If you are, and it's going to give you the job ID over there. And once you can see also the number of splits, because the file size is very small. The split is only 1, and it started with the mapping and reducing process, showing the percentage of the completion. And if the file size is very big, it will take lot of time. You can see map process is 100%, it means successfully it is completed, and reducer is also successfully it is completed. Now we have got the output of it. Let's see, it is not going to display the output directly. It is stored on the wc out underscore demo folder, where the file names usually goes like this. It's going to have the file names like it ends with the part -00s and 001, 002 for the next runs. Let's see the file of that. You can see over there part -r. You can see over there 5 zeros are there. And the task what we have completed given is successfully completed. You can see this is the default name which is generated. The next one, if I do, that will be part hyphen R hyphen 0001. Like that, it's going to name the files. Let's see what is the content of it. I'm using virtual machine, so it is taking little time. Yeah, I'll be just showing the content of part hyphen R 5 zeros. And it is having the count. See, I is having 2 occurrence, YAM is having 2 occurrence. Let me show you the input file also. You will can aram se check out. Yeah, I made again mistake in the command. Yeah, sample data, yes. Yeah, this is what is my input content, and here I'm having a count of each occurrence of the word. Hopefully you understood it, and you need not to worry much about programming. Just they will ask you a standard program. Next, we are having fault tolerance and speculative execution in the MapReduce. The fault tolerance is nothing but what if something goes wrong. Oh, how it's going to handle. The one of the most interesting aspect of parallel MapReduce operation is the strict control of the data flow throughout the execution of the program. It's going to control it very strictly. For example, mapper process do not exchange the data with other mapper. We have seen in the diagram also. And data can only go from mapper to reducer. There is no reducer to mapper, which we have already seen. The confined data flow enables the MapReduce to operate in a fault-tolerant fashion because it's not allowing the data to move in the different directions. It's going to enable the model itself in a fault-tolerant fashion. The design of MapReduce makes it possible to easily recover from the failure of the one of the many map processes. For example, should a server fail, the map tasks that were running on the machine could easily be restarted on the another working server because there is no dependency on any of the map tasks. You have seen, see, one map task is independent of another map. If one data node goes down, so we need not to worry that we can give it to the other data node where, as we have seen the replication factors and all, there also I can start it. Because of this dependency, this parallel programming, and you know that from the advanced computer architecture, the parallel programming can be possible only when you are having a independent data. If you are having a dependent data, we cannot perform the parallel programming. In a similar fashion, what we are going to do is the failed reducer can also be restarted. If the reducer task remains to be completed on a down node, the MapReduce application master will need to restart the reducer task. About this application master and all we'll discuss in the second module. If the mapper output is not available for newly restarted reducer, then these map tasks will need to be restarted. This process is totally transparent to the user and provide a fault tolerant system to run the application. That is how the fault tolerance will be taken place. Because it is all because of there is a independent working and there is no dependency between any mappers or any reducers, and the data will flow from mapper to reducer, not in another direction. Let's see what is speculative execution is. One of the challenging with a large cluster is the inability to predict and manage the unexpected system bottlenecks and the failures. This problem represents the difficult challenges for the larger systems. Thus, it is possible that congested network, you know what is congested network is, when there exists a bottleneck, that itself is a congested network. Slow disk controller, even though we might be having a slow disk controller, like we'll be using a old hard disks. Controllers are outdated and we are running with the new systems, so that may also cause a delay. Failing disks, high processor load, these are all the causes, or some other similar problems may lead to slow down the performance without anyone noticing. These are all the things which technically it's affecting, which is not noticed by anyone, because this happens. This is the hardware limits. When one part of the MapReducer process runs slowly, it is ultimately slowed down to everything. That's we are aware, because one person is slow, that completely affects on the complete process. Everything else, because the application cannot complete until this process is going to be completed, because final output is dependent on all the mappers, all the reducers. But when it comes to the individual working, they are independent, but final output is dependent on all the parallel machines. The nature of the parallel MapReduce model provides an interesting solution to this problem by starting a copy of the running map process without disturbing any other running mapper processes. A copy is going to start. For example, suppose as most of the map tasks are coming to close, the application master notices that some are still pending, they are still running. Many are going to complete, some are still running. Then it's going to schedule redundant copies of the same with the remaining jobs on the less busy or free servers. Should the secondary process finish the first, the other first process are then terminated, or vice versa. Who is going to finish now will be considered, and the remaining will be terminated by the application master. Again, I'm telling you, application master is playing a very big role over here in the MapReduce, but this we will discuss in the module 2, where we are going to discuss in detail about YARN, that is yet another resource negotiator. This process, when we feel that in our parallel programming, parallel execution, few of the machines are not coping up with the speed, and most of the machines are coping up with the speed. Those machines, what all the tasks I have assigned, what we are going to do is that will be replicated and it will be given to the free servers. are less loaded servers, and they also start working on it. And whomever is going to finish in the faster way, that will be considered, and whomever is still doing the task, those will be terminated. This process is called as speculative execution. This is how the MapReduce framework is going to handle the fault tolerance and speculative execution. You guys do one thing, better to configure the Hadoop, run the word count program and the benchmark programs. Textbook has given a steps, even in it is given even in the study material. Go with those things, try to run those things, and you will understand how exactly this is going to work, rather than just learning through theoretically. Anyhow, you guys are having 3 subjects in this semester. You can try out learning something new by configuring on your own. Anyhow, very soon you will be exploring yourself to the industry, where if you know, like if you can configure, if you can work on your own, then it will be good for your even for your future. And again, the complete content is delivered from the Douglas Edline textbook. Thank you.